My ex-husband and I are divorced. We share custody of our 5 and 3 years old kids together. He's been struggling with health issues for about a year now. He had a surgery scheduled and asked if I'd let him have them the day before the surgery, but I politely declined, since it was my time to have them and any switch in schedule might affect my work. The day of the surgery, his girlfriend called me from the hospital and put him on the phone. He asked how I was doing, and basically his go-to method to ask for something, then asked if I could let the kids FaceTime him before he went into surgery. I said I was at work, but he asked if I could take a break, go home, and let the children FaceTime him for 10 minutes. I said I was sorry, but refused. I promised I'd have the kids see him post-surgery, but he started arguing with me. He said that it was unfair enough I didn't let him have the kids the day before, and that he felt like FaceTiming them before the surgery was reasonable enough. I had to end the call since there was so much commotion for my co-workers to hear. His girlfriend called me back, but I refused to respond. I got off work at 7 p.m. and his girlfriend called asking if I was happy, and said that he literally cried after the call was ended and after I refused to do what he asked. She called me unbelievable and spiteful for having no consideration for my kids, if not for their dad and what he's going through. I said I wasn't going to interrupt work when I was already busy. She said that I was making excuses and that she felt sorry for the kids, implying that I was being deliberately hurtful in my behavior, which I'm not. It's just that I had to work. Am I in the wrong for not leaving work and go home just so he could FaceTime the kids for 10 minutes? And now for some comments. You are hugely in the wrong for not allowing him to have the kids the day before his surgery. You say so yourself that he has been struggling with health issues, yet you don't seem to have the slightest bit of empathy or sympathy for a man that seems to be terrified he will not get to see his children one last time. Moreover, you don't seem to care that your children may not get to see their dad one last time either. I am with a girlfriend, I feel sorry for the kids too. You're lucky they are so young, because if they were old enough to understand you refused to let them see their dad before his surgery, I bet they wouldn't have taken that lightly. You are in the wrong. Not for not leaving work, but for not switching him days. What if he didn't wake up from surgery? How would you feel then? Also, who was watching your kids when he wanted to FaceTime them? Could you not have set that up for them so they could see their dad? It really just sounds like you went out of your way to make sure the phone call didn't happen out of spite, given that you and your ex have a bad relationship. I think it's a problem that both of you are acting like jerks and putting your kids in the middle when it's unnecessary. The nephew in question is James, 17 male. He will be 18 in December. The other nephew and nieces in question are Cole, 28 male, and Melody and Bryony, 30 female. My sister is a biological mother of Cole, Melody, and Bryony. Their father died when the kids were 8 and 10. My sister married James' dad 15 years ago and she never formally adopted him, but did raise him as her son. There was a lot of tension and conflict in the home, and Cole, Melody, and Bryony all moved out immediately upon graduating or turning 18. The relationship with my sister then ended. It also ended with James and his father. I stayed in contact with the three of them though, and have always known where they are and that they are not interested in reconciliation. Ever since my sister took on James as her own, they have allowed him to believe she is his biological mother and that the other kids are his biological siblings, and it was only a few years ago I realized he believed they share the same father as well. My sister and her husband have always encouraged James to believe that his siblings love and want to know him and that they will have a relationship one day. He has been craving that more in the last 2.5 years or so. He has mentioned it a number of times. Some family members and I tried to convince his parents to at least tell him the biological truth, so he is not faced with it from people who will not care about cushioning his feelings or making sure he's okay. And they refused. My sister said there is no biological truth. They are the parents and all four are their kids, and it ends there. James has been talking to me a lot about finding his siblings and being excited to have them back in his life. He mentioned how maybe he could reconcile their parents and them too, and how he hoped to prove they were never replaced by him, and that he knows it must have been hard to have a baby come into the family so much later. He believed that was what the estrangement was about, what his parents told him. I decided he needed to know after my sister and her husband refused yet again to talk to him. So I was honest. My sister wasn't his biological mother, and his dad was not their bio dad too. They were not blood siblings. I told him I loved him, and it didn't make him less of my nephew, but I didn't want him blindsided by not getting the response he was expecting. He asked me if they would actually want a relationship with him, and I told him no. He confronted his parents about the lies and the way they were setting him up. My sister called and told me that I was a jerk and stepped out of my place by telling him what I did without her and her husband's consent. I can see my nephew James is struggling and trying to work out his head after I told him the truth, and it makes my sister's words hit harder. Am I in the wrong? And now for some comments. You're not in the wrong. That poor boy would spend a lifetime trying to heal something using the wrong medicine if you weren't honest with him. Now he can factor in this new truth in his contact with his siblings. If he continues to reach out, it is important he knows the truth. Not in a wrong. The poor boy. I am so glad OP told him. What if this there is no biological truth nonsense carries on into his medical records, and he gets a genetic issue his doctors cannot make heads or tails of, because one of his parents should have shown signs. Two possibilities. Either sister was honest with the family doctor, which means James would have found out eventually, or she wasn't, which is a whole new level of irresponsible. Not in a wrong. The biggest reason for my vote is because his dad and stepmom let him think he was a reason the other kids left. That's horrible to put on a kid. I'm not saying the rest of the lies are okay, but the way this poor kid must have felt, thinking he was a reason his family couldn't be a family, it was going to hurt even worse if he spoke to his siblings and got hit with that from a place of pain from them. It wasn't your information to share, but he needed to know. Someone had to do right by this kid because his parents were failing him big time. They will obviously blame you, but their actions are probably going to cause them to lose contact with all four kids. I-15 female have always had really screwed up teeth. And ever since I could remember, I've always been insecure about my smile. But my family has really never had the money up until my dad got a new job a couple months ago. And after begging for the past 5 years to get braces, my dad finally caved in and agreed to make an appointment with my dentist to get a referral to the orthodontist, and so far it's been going great. Until a week ago when I was coming home from an orthodontist appointment, my aunt randomly decides to call my mom, I'm guessing to check up on her. And basically to sum it up, my aunt asked my mom what she was doing. And my mom replied, just taking OP home from her orthodontist appointment. And immediately my aunt went silent for a second and went on to ask if it was for braces. Obviously my mom says yes, and goes on to explain how they put in spacers, and I will be going back in a week to get my braces on, and so on. And that's when she started to get a little bit frustrated, and asked my mom why wouldn't she have consulted her, considering she can't afford dental insurance for my cousin. She then basically went on to talk about how that could affect my cousin, and also how I could possibly make him insecure that I have braces and he doesn't. And she went on to suggest that if I was even going to get the braces on, I should include him in my experience considering he won't be able to get braces. My mom obviously started to get aggravated, and asked her where did she find the audacity to say all of that. And to sum it up, they basically argued for a majority of the car ride home, till my mom hung up. Since then, my entire mom's side of the family have been calling/texting my mom, calling her a jerk for getting me braces knowing my aunt can't afford dental insurance for my cousin. Which is weird considering she's always given him everything he could possibly ever want. She literally buys him whatever he wants. Anyways, I really just don't get what this whole family feud is about. Because I generally need braces, and even my dentist agrees with that. Noted, I really can't even sleep with my mouth closed at night because my overbite is so bad. So obviously it is not really a cosmetic thing for me. The cosmetic part, it's obviously a plus though. So, what do y'all think? Am I in a wrong here? And now for some comments. You're not in a wrong. I have absolutely no idea what your orthodontic treatment has to do with your cousin's mouth, or your aunt's delicate feelings, or her projections about your cousin's insecurities. I'm really scratching my head trying to figure out how you're supposed to include him in your experience too. Like, what? Are you supposed to ask for half your braces to be put in his mouth instead? Wow, what entitlement on your aunt's part. It is. And if you might get jealous about anything you might have access to that he doesn't, maybe you should share with him some feminine period products or something like that too. I just can't even. Not in a wrong. Your aunt's argument is bizarre. Both sides of my family finances vary from typical blue collar to upper middle class, and not all of my cousins had braces. My sister and I both needed them. Small crowded mouths meant these got turned funny and needed correcting. I'm kinda puzzled about how you'd include your cousin in the experience, even if you wanted to. I remember my cousins being annoyed if I complained about the braces hurting, and getting teased occasionally when I couldn't eat things everyone else was eating. And that's about it. Not in a wrong. You are deserving a beautiful smile. What your aunt can or cannot afford for your cousin has absolutely no bearing on what you deserve. If your aunt's family gives you a hassle, be sure to ask them how much they are willing to pay for your cousin's braces, and I'm sure the whining will cease. Take care of your teeth. Smile at your aunt every chance you get. Not in a wrong. Your aunt has no right to go against your decision for your personal choice. You got braces, and your aunt is not the one helping you financially either. It is understandable that your aunt is surprised, but it's still your choice, and plus your family agrees on getting you braces. If she's upset, it's actually her problem. I am sorry that you feel insecure because of your teeth, but don't worry. Everything will be alright within a few years with braces. If braces are the way for making you feel confident and secure, then you have every right to put them on with your parents' consent and not other relatives.